Namo MyoHoRenGeKyo. Hello, everyone. Thank you for being here. Namo MyoHoRenGeKyo. Namo MyoHoRenGeKyo. Thank you for your practice. Thank you for your support and growing the Sangha. When you like and subscribe, just a few seconds, it helps the algorithms make us more obvious, easier to find for those who are looking for support for their practice. So thank you for that. All right, we are still just now jumping to the letter D in the Buddhism reference, which continues to grow. This one is Daimoku, and there's an interesting variety of opinions on the internet, which I don't have to tell you are all either a little bit or very much wrong. But I mean, that's the internet for you, and that's the history of anything. Certainly Buddhism, right? Excuse me. I just finished mowing 5 acres of grass, so my nose is a little unhappy. All right. Sorry about that. Okay, so Daimoku. There are others, of course, but these 3 definitions are evidence to demonstrate the widely spread misunderstandings and poor influences of sectarian and schools of traditions. First, and this is probably the most accurate description I found on the internet, from encyclopedia.com. It says, the term Daimoku, literally title, refers specifically to the title of the Lotus Sutra, MyoHoRenGeKyo, in Japanese pronunciation, or to its invocation, usually in the form of Namu MyoHoRenGeKyo. The Daimoku was chanted in various liturgical and devotional settings in Japan in Heian period, 794 to 1185, and was later given a doctrinal foundation by Nichiren, 1222 to 1282. It is the central practice of the Nichiren school. See also Chanting and Liturgy, Lotus Sutra, Sadharma Pundarika Sutra. So that's pretty darn good as an internet piece of information goes. It also clues you into something I've talked about in some videos, is that Nichiren didn't invent the Daimoku. Right? A lot of people think, especially in some schools, they seem to think that Buddhism begins and ends with Nichiren, and that's just not the case. Nichiren is our mentor, our modern scholar and mentor, the person we want to emulate, yes? But he didn't invent the title of the Lotus Sutra. And people, certainly since Tendai, if not before, were very much in favor of invoking the title of the Lotus Sutra. The Lotus Sutra being the very ultimate practice teaching of Shakyamuni. Since 6th century China, the Lotus Sutra has been held as the pinnacle of the teachings. So invoking its title, it didn't start with Nichiren. Nichiren formulated it in his doctrine, made it a formal form of practice, the form of practice. He was just capturing what Shakyamuni was saying all along, but he didn't invent it, okay? So that's pretty good. Now, the second one, this is from Tricycle, which is a publication. They do a lot of things, but they try to do, like so many groups, or they try to be everything to everyone. And unfortunately, the one thing they do not focus on, they're just starting to in the last year, starting to delve into medieval Japan because of scholars like, I'm going to forget her name now. I love her, though. I've read a few of her books. Oh, come on, Sylvain. Anyway, there's been some recent academic scholarship, and Tricycle is at least talking to a couple of those people about Nichiren and modern Buddhism. But for the most part, they're floating between everything from the Tibetan traditions to yoga, Yogacara, Hinayana, Agama Sutras. They're just Theravada. They're very big into Theravada. But to purport themselves as the Buddhist journal, they're just not. And so I found their definition of the Daimoku, and you'll notice the mistakes in the first two characters of Namu as the Daimoku. They include it as the Daimoku. Obviously, Namu is not the title of the Lotus Sutra. It's an invocation that we get through our Nichiren doctrine and implied in earlier doctrines of the invocation of the title. But the title isn't invoke this, right? So anyway, it just shows you their scholarship is, just pay attention to that. From Tricycle. The Daimoku, the title of the Lotus Sutra, is believed by Nichiren Buddhists to embody the all-pervading nature of the universe and subsums all phenomena. The Japanese phrase, Namu MyoHoRenGeKyo, literally means, I take refuge in the lotus of the wonderful law. No. Again, that refuge, that's a Hinayana idea, right? We don't take refuge in it. We invoke our Buddha nature. That's just, they totally miss that. Chanting Daimoku is the principal practice of all Nichiren Buddhists. First of all, we're Shakyamuni, we're Buddhists. We're not Nichiren Buddhists. Nichiren is our mentor, our counselor, our bodhisattva, teaching us the proper way to be Lotus Sutra Buddhists. This idea that Nichiren is a separate kind of a Buddhism is ridiculous. Nichiren is a scholar of Shakyamuni's teachings, and if anything, a Lotus Sutra Buddhist, right? Just as Tendai is a Lotus Sutra school of Buddhism. All right. Buddha was identical with the original. Okay, let's start that over. Nichiren taught that the historical Buddha, which by that most people mean Shakyamuni, was identical with the original, eternal Buddha, and that inasmuch as all human beings partake of the Buddha nature, all human beings are manifestations of the eternal. Do you hear that rhetoric? This is because so many earlier traditions of Buddhism, not even Shakyamuni's teaching specifically, but the traditions built around them, like Theravada, like Hinayana, like even Nichiren Shu, continue to use this idea of soul, which is absolutely aberrant. Shakyamuni spent so much time casting that out, that silliness, that Santa Claus mentality, that there's some kind of eternal bag of self. There is no self. But that's where that comes from, right? This fascination with eternal. Oh, we'll never die. We'll just go someplace else. Reincarnation. That's Hinduism. It's every darn religion on the planet, except Buddhism. And yet, here it is, right? He devised 3 ways of expressing this concept, known as the Sandai Hiho, the 3 great secret laws or mysteries. The first, the Honzon, is the chief object of worship in Nichiren temples and is a ritual drawing showing the name of the Lotus Sutra surrounded by the names of divinities mentioned in the sutra or the discourse of the Buddha. Oh my goodness. You see how this is written completely from ignorance. This is all misunderstanding of stories. I've discussed this ad nauseum throughout many videos. It's so disheartening to see this on the internet as a supposed Buddhist authority talking about the Daimoku. No clue, right? The second main mystery is the Daimoku, the title of the sutra. Nichiren instituted the devotional practice of chanting the phrase Namu MyoHoRenGeKyo I devote myself to the Lotus Sutra of the Wonderful Law. Oh, first we took refuge, now we devote. Which is it? They are different in meaning. The third mystery relates to the kaidan, or the place of ordination, which is sacred and belongs to the, quote, lotus of the good law, end quote. The kaidan is the repository of, it's our altar. It's what you set up in your home. The butsudan with the offerings of scent, sight, right? Light with the candles, the incense, water, right? The things that support life. It's really simple, and yet this cacophony of mystery here. It's just, I'm sorry, but it's very upsetting to me that, in fact, maybe I should just leave that out of the book because it may yet confuse people, right? I'm sorry, I skipped around. Take refuge chanting Daimoku. Oh, that's why it's different. Principal practice of Nichiren Buddhism. By reciting this mantra, practitioners endeavor to change their karma, overcoming obstacles to success or happiness. Again, this is Tricycle being very... It's like they consulted Ikeda or something. It's just so bad. Now, Britannica is the one that says Nichiren taught that the historical Buddha was identical with the original eternal Buddha, and that inasmuch as all human beings partake of Buddha natures, all humans manifestations of the eternal. That's still wrong, as I was saying earlier. Yeah, and they're the ones who say devotion rather than refuge. So they're at least closer to the mark in that regard. But both the Britannica and Tricycle, get out of here. Encyclopedia.com, not too bad. All right, so I continue from there. And I talk about the first citation from encyclopedia.com is the closest to the facts in that they are the only site to identify Daimoku correctly as the title alone. The 5 characters of MyoHoRenGeKyo. See MyoHoRenGeKyo in the book here. Nichiren adds to the title the commitment of presence and resolve to performatively invoke the Daimoku and to extend the practice of chanting to the 7 characters of Namu MyoHoRenGeKyo. See Namu and Namu MyoHoRenGeKyo. And this is where I address that question from a lot of people who've been misled for years by, I won't even say, by shortening, concatenating the first 2 characters like it's a grammatical error and only chanting 6 characters. Well, there are 7. If Nichiren is your mentor, why are you customizing this to what? You're lazy? You can't say the full... That's just ridiculous. Again, what kind of authoritarian crap is that? That's just so Nichiren Shoshu can say, we're better because we're different. New and improved Nichiren. Get out of here. I practice Nichiren's teachings, not yours, you egotistical, right? And all of this spawn of the ego from Nichiren Shoshu. That's the drama that's been going on for decades, yeah? Any of you who've been involved with either Shoshu or NSA or SGI, yes, I'm pointing them out. The ego has always been the problem in both of those all of those organizations. They're all egomaniacs. They want to own you. Guess what? That's not Buddhism. Buddhism, as Shakyamuni set it out, is for each and every one of us to open our gate, our enlightenment, experience Buddhahood, no matter what your station in life, whatever. You don't have to get it from anyone else. You don't have to pass a test to get it from anyone else. It's already yours. You just need to awaken it. So what's with these organizations? Oh, well, if you do this enough and you do this, and pay here. That's not Buddhism. That's a cult. That's religion. That's something else, but it's not Buddhism. The second citation tricycle is obviously influenced by their continued allegiance to early teachings of Buddhism, the Hinayana, Theravada schools, as well as the mysticism of the Tibetan school. Notice the oft-repeated phrase, I take refuge in. We are not hiding from anything, right? That's take refuge, coddle me, hold me, embrace me. What? Embrace yourself. Invoke your enlightenment. You're not hiding from anything. You want it all. You want to embrace everything. It's the exact opposite. We are not hiding from anything. Though the magazine recently published some work of Jacqueline Stone, finally her name, on Nichiren Buddhism, Tricycle has continued its promotion of outdated terms and outdated teachings no longer suitable for the times, our times. This is repeated by Shakyamuni, Nichiren, and many scholars of the Buddhist order. I include it here due to its popularity. The third citation from our friends at Britannica mistakes the Honzon as the physical scroll or mandala created by Nichiren, right? How many errors are there about this? This is the most repeated aberration of our modern era. See Gohonzon and Mandala in this book. Also notice that the statement, I devote myself to the Lotus Sutra, smacks too much of a giving up of our power to the teaching. This, too, is an aberration. We devote ourselves to none other than our innate Buddha, not the teachings that instruct us to do so. Right? This is so blindingly obvious. No wonder Nichiren would lose in his mind sometimes, disgust at the state of affairs in his day in Japan. So, Daimoku. Daimoku literally is, as Nichiren says, now I'm quoting Nichiren, the 5 or 7 characters of the title of the Lotus Sutra. The title of the Lotus Sutra, the Daimoku, is our invocation of the title of the Lotus Sutra, the full form being Namu, I am present and I am ready to invoke, to inculcate the teaching, the law, the reality, the true nature of, which is already within my capacity to understand, MyoHoRenGeKyo, Buddha-ness. Where does that occur? In the mind. The transition point, the paradigm shift, the whatever you want to call it in the mind, where we go from totally focused on the monkeys, right, samsara, and open that door, that is Honzon. It is the ultimate open eye. Go Honzon. The scroll is a tool that Nichiren devised to capture the totality of the Sermon in the Sky, the Lotus Sutra, with all of its concepts, its personages, its symbolisms, so that we could focus in on Namu MyoHoRenGeKyo, specifically on the Myoho part, right? Potential instantiation, right there, Myoho, so that we could push away the distractions of the monkey mind and samsara and penetrate to our sentient mind's Honzon, to what's next? Renge. Oh, Renge is the opening of that Buddha eye. And in that moment, experience Buddha-ness, the true nature of the engine of life. Our momentum, the whole ball of wax. That's Daimoku. So Daimoku has kind of a dual term. It's at once it's the title of the teaching, but it's also the invocation that allows us to penetrate that teaching, experience that teaching. I hope that makes sense. I know there's a lot of distracting language out there, but this is very specific, and it's There must have been 20 definitions I found online from all over the place. And believe me, they get worse than those. I don't know where these people dream this stuff up. But it's pretty clear. Nichiren has repeated it from 1,000 different angles, yeah? And we've talked about it many, many times. Right? Look at the profound meaning of the Daimoku, the book I wrote. I believe it's available in downloadable form, electronic book as well. And I go through every Gosho if you'll go to the playlist, you can watch me talk about every one of those Goshos that I cite in that book and give you the insights so that you can read it clearly, right? Anyway, get this clear in your head, however you need to get it. We all do it our own way. I'm providing as much insight, experience from my own over 40 years of doing this. And certainly I've had some insights that will be useful to you. But, not all. We're all individual. But if my particular insights don't seem to work for you, they may lead you to your own. And that's what's important. Because it's your Buddha nature, your awakening, not mine. I can't inject you with Buddha-ness. It has to come from within yourself. And that's the fundamental key to Buddhism. There's nothing outside of us that's going to save us. Even though translations constantly use that kind of rhetoric, it's completely inefficient. It's an aberration of what Shakyamuni was teaching. And, I have a little section at the end of this book that's about non-Buddhist terms that we should avoid using. And I started listing them, and I got the big offenders, like soul and faith and worship and that kind of stuff. But, gosh, I could make that list. I could make a whole book on that list. How boring would that be? You get the point, I hope. And if I missed one that you think really I should say something about, use the comments. Let me know. I'm not all-knowing, all-seeing. You have a different experience of life. And there may be a word that, man, you say all of this, okay, but what about this? Oh, and I'll probably slap my head and go, damn, I never really thought about that. And I'll probably have something to say, or I'll research it so that I at least have a foundation of some scholarship, some academic, knowledge before I talk out of my butt, right? And make a meaningful statement. But help me out. Let me know. If I'm missing something, I want to know. It'll help my practice, so thank you. But it also helped the Sangha, all of us, yeah? Anyway, I'm very excited about your practice. I'm very excited about those new folks who have subscribed. You may have been watching for a while and just now subscribed, so thank you anyway. That's very supportive and very good for our Sangha. Those of you who have bought electronic books or print books or mandalas, just know that your support is invaluable. It's the thing that keeps this happening for me, for you, for all of us. And there's also a lot of free information on threefoldlotus.com. And, the podcasts are the audio stripped out of these videos. So you get every slip up and mispronunciation. Anyway, you get all of these videos in oral form. And so that may be entertaining and maybe easier for you to listen to. Sometimes for myself, I need to listen to something several times, not maybe in a row, but maybe 6 months later or a month later. Oh, yeah, I need to listen to that one again, and I'll get something new from it. That's the way we teach ourselves. We hear differently. I would encourage you, in watching these videos or listening to the podcast or even just reading things, to chant a little bit first, to open that channel, open that Honzon in your mind, so that your particular, insights can be alert. Because it doesn't matter my words or Shakyamuni's or Nichiren's. What matters is that with those words, you're able to penetrate something of value, the jewels in the communication, right? The meaning. And the best way to do that is make sure that Honzon is open, receptive, listening, watching. You'll get more out of your study, your investigation, your curiosity. All right, that's it for today. Thanks again for participating. Take care of your health. Be kind. And I'll see you again soon in the next one. All right, bye for now.